What's up, everybody? It's Chris Curls again. This is the Highest Underground Show. Today, I'm going to talk about everything that's happening with the coronavirus and states that are shutting the government down. Nevada, I think, was the first one that I heard about, and they were, shutting the casinos down, which is kind of crazy. You would think that a bunch of corrupt gangster casino owners would say that, we're not closing down. I mean, everyone is complying with this. This is crazy. This is something that our grandparents, great-grandparents, no one in the history of the United States has ever seen anything like this, unless it was right around the time of the Revolutionary War. This is not normal, obviously. And when they started shutting the gyms down and the theaters and the bars, I was like, okay, how much longer before they shut the grocery stores down? Because once they shut the grocery stores down, all the food will be gone within 3 days. And then you say people will have, let's say, 2 to 3 weeks of food to live on. Some do, some don't. Some are going to be getting robbed for their food, obviously. But about after 3 weeks, that's when the killing and the robbing is going to start. And there's going to be civil unrest. Now, what's going on right now with the coronavirus is that, okay, my regular Clorox disinfectant wipes, the first thing they say is, I'm going to say, can you get in there? The human coronavirus. If you can't see it, anyway, I'll put a link to it in the descriptions. But it has human coronavirus, and then it says influenza A2 virus. Now I need to look at the A2 virus and see what that is, but it sounds like, I bought this well over 6 months, maybe a year ago. And there's obviously strains of coronavirus. The human coronavirus is a strain of the common cold. Now, has this one evolved into something that's a lot more dangerous than just the regular coronaviruses that have been around forever? And maybe so. At first, I was almost thinking the whole disease was fake. Obviously, you have some conspiracy theories going on right now with 5G. If you look at the map on the rollout of 5G, you'll see that the outbreak of the coronavirus is almost very similar to that. But I'm just wondering, is that because it's the most developed and developed nations? Because it's all the Western nations in Asia. And it looks very similar. The thing is that we have been talking about and listening and hearing warnings about 5G for 2 to 3 years now. And they have been planning on rolling 5G out. There has been basically no studies to see how this affects people, and there aren't going to be any, because the people that have done studies are ignored, and they're like hush hush, basically like the people who tell us that the cell phone radiation, the people who've done studies where girls wear their cell phone in their bra and guys carry their cell phone in their front pocket, and people get tumors where the exact place where they would always carry these cell phones. This stuff is real. They're not giving us the whole truth. And that's how history is. You ever find out, like, how the Gulf of Tonkin in Vietnam, we find out later that it was all a staged hoax just to get Americans to support entering the war in Vietnam. And which, by the way, Jim Morrison, the singer of The Doors, his dad was the naval officer in charge of that whole thing. So that seems really weird, doesn't it? Anyway, let me put my glasses on, y'all, so I can read a little bit. I am going to read y'all an excerpt today of a document that was put out in 2010 by the Rockefeller Association. And this document is crazy, y'all. It's basically they write these scenarios of things that could happen. And these things that could happen, they say that they give these, these think tanks come up with these crazy scenarios, give them to the cops and the local governments to see, like, hey, these are the things you need to prepare for, the things that could happen. Now that just seems mighty suspicious and suspect to me. So anyway, Wuhan, guys, was the first city to roll out completely in 5G. And then it just so happens that this virus started in Wuhan. It was actually called the Wuhan virus at first. Now you can't say that without being a racist, or you can't say the virus from China. In fact, just don't even say China at all, because you're racist if you do. People are seen on some of these cameras dropping dead, or just dropping to the ground at bus stops and in the middle of a city. These aren't people who are walking around feeling sick, like staying at home, watching Netflix, sleeping, taking a bunch of medicine, blah, 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 drinking Gatorade. I mean, these people are like fully clothed, like they're going to work, and then they're just falling. And they say that the 5G, which is 60 gigahertz millimeter waves, that the 5G affects the oxygen molecules so that it makes them spin and activate where our hemoglobin in our blood is not allowed, it doesn't allow it to take it up as efficiently as normal. So these people are having a lot of respiratory problems. You're hearing pneumonia, but like a video I watched, it was basically, pneumonia is when your lungs fill up with fluid. These people are having dry coughs. They're not having fluid. Something's weird is going on. And they are so quick to push this out of all the diseases. Let me see here. What do we have? SARS in 2002. Bird flu in 1997, swine flu in April 2009, mad cow disease was in the 80s and early 90s, the West Nile virus, 1999, Zika, y'all remember that. I mean, it's like there's always something new going around that could kill the whole world, and they are really pushing it this time, because I've seen them all and I've never seen them go this hard on it. So what's going on? To me, I have a feeling that they're obviously trying to push the vaccines. The vaccines are, guys, they always talk about the vaccines. Most of the diseases were declining with the advent of indoor plumbing and electricity. So once we started having access to those things and taking care of our waste, the diseases plummeted. Vaccines came along and tried to take credit for it. However, I give shout out to my plumbers, because I know how many lives it saves every year just from when these people have to dig a hole in all your pipes and everything, that you can just go to your bathroom and flush your toilet every morning. Another conspiracy thing is at first, any of these flus and sicknesses always affect the older people, the older generation, the elderly. Now, the elderly are usually more conservative. So you can take it as, well, they really trying to kill off the conservatives and anybody who remembers what life was like pre-internet, and when the people had maybe a little bit of power and everybody wasn't corrupted in the government like they are now. And that's why I do not believe anything that the government says or that I see on mainstream media. You can't. How many times does someone have to lie to you and cheat on you before you just say, I don't care what you say, I don't want to hear it? If you're in a relationship, maybe one time you'll never talk to the person again, but this is something that the mainstream media and our government has lied to us. So just like we were talking about the Gulf of Tonkin, we know now that it was all a stage hoax and it was fake just to get us into the war. How much stuff are we going to find out 20, 30, 40 years from now? How much stuff they're lying about and they're making up, and how all this was planned. Now, Mr. Vaccine himself, Mr. Bill Gates, is always pushing him in Africa for whatever kind of vaccine he can poke people with. Him and Bill and Melinda Gates actually are funding a group called the Pirbright Institute. That's Pirbright, Pirbright Institute. Now, the Pirbright Institute, guess what? They own a patent for something. It's actually the coronavirus strain that's actually spreading throughout the world right now. This group that Bill Gates funds owns donated and owns a little bit of this company, is affiliated with this company in some kind of way. Now, they're making businesses close, and I can't believe people are saying, no, F you, I'm not going to close. I'm not going to close my business. That's unconstitutional. You can't tell me that. And then they're trying to shame you. They're trying to shame you to make you believe that if you go out, yeah, you could be all right, but you could be infecting 2 other people and you might could kill them. And so their life is in your hands. Y'all, that is complete bullshit. You're not going to shame an American to giving up his rights, because that is what's happening right now. You're freely giving up your rights. Now, I think they are definitely going to roll out with this vaccine. I mean, I don't know how far they're going to go with it, but it's going to be one of those things where you can't get car insurance or health insurance if you haven't got the vaccine. You can't fly on a plane unless you have the vaccine. You can't be on a public transportation, buses. You can't go to movie theaters unless you have the vaccine. I mean, what if they get that ridiculous with it? It could happen. You never know. But, so, that's the worst case scenario, but really, what is the worst case scenario? Have y'all seen the videos of the trains and the tanks in different cities? And I don't know how realistic that is. And I mean, it could have been filmed from a parade 5 years ago or something. You never know when that stuff is. But if they're really starting to roll out military presence, that has to be something that we stand up against. So we cannot allow that to become normal in our cities or in our rural areas. It doesn't matter. That shit is not normal. And we need to let them know that that shit will not fly. So let me read something to y'all. This Rockefeller 2010 document, where they were basically, these think tanks came up with these different scenarios to help the governments, state and local governments, federal government agencies, and everybody prepare for these scenarios. Now, the Rockefeller Foundation and GBN begin the scenario process by surfacing a host of driving forces that would affect the future of technology and international development. These forces were generated through both secondary research and in-depth interviews with foundation staff, foundation grantees, and external experts. Now, let me go in here and read the scenario. All right, this is some. For decades, technology has been dramatically changing not just the lives of individuals in developed countries, but increasingly the lives and livelihoods of people throughout the developing world. Whether it is a community mobile phone, a solar panel, a new farming practice, or a cutting-edge medical device, technology is altering the landscape of possibilities in places where possibilities used to be scarce. Yeah, we know all this. Sorry, y'all. I'm getting into, all right, let me go down to the scenario. One of the scenarios that they're giving is what could happen if this happened or that happened. And let me just read this to y'all, because this, all right, what do they say? The scenarios that follow are not meant to be exhaustive. Rather, they are designed to be both plausible and provocative, to engage your imagination while also raising new questions for you about what the future might look and feel like. Each scenario tells a story of how the world, and in particularly the developing world, might progress over the next 15 to 20 years, with an emphasis on those elements relating to the use of different technologies, once again, and the interaction of these technologies with the lives of the poor and vulnerable. Accompanying each scenario is a range of elements that aspire to further illuminate life, technology, and philanthropy in that world. These include a timeline of possible headlines and emblematic events unfolding during the period of the scenario, short descriptions of what technologies and technology trends we might see, initial observations on the changing role of philanthropy in that world, highlighting opportunities and challenges that philanthropic organizations would face and what their operating environment might be like. Now, a day in the life sketch of a person living and working in that world. All right, y'all ready? This first scenario is called Lockstep. Lockstep. A world of tighter top-down government control and more authoritarian leadership with limited innovation and growing citizen pushback. I mean, guys, when they wrote this in 2010, they were writing it in a past tense scenario, like it had already happened, and they're describing a situation that already happened. All right, are y'all ready? Here it is. In 2012, the pandemic that the world had been anticipating for years finally hit. Unlike 2009's H1N1, this new influenza strain, originating from wild geese, not wild bats, it's originating from wild geese, was extremely virulent and deadly. Even the most pandemic-prepared nations were quickly overwhelmed when the virus streaked around the world, infecting nearly 20% of the global population and killing 8 million in just 7 months, the majority of them healthy young adults. The pandemic also had a deadly effect on economics. International mobility of both people and goods screeched to a halt, debilitating industries like tourism and breaking global supply chains. Even locally, normally bustling shops and office buildings sat empty for months, devoid of both employees and customers. The pandemic blanketed the planet, though disproportionate numbers died in Africa, which is not true right now because they seem to be all in Asia and not Africa, which is normally where you would think. But anyway, so Africa, Southeast Asia, and Central America, where the virus spread like wildfire in the absence of official containment protocols. But even in developed countries, containment was a challenge. The United States' initial policy of strongly discouraging citizens from flying proved deadly in its leniency, accelerating the spread of the virus not just within the U.S., but across borders. However, a few countries did fare better. China in particular. Well, that's kind of interesting, huh? The Chinese government's quick imposition and enforcement of mandatory quarantine for all citizens, as well as its instant and near hermetic sealing off of all borders. It's funny that the hermetic, oh my God, the Masonic words, they had to put that in there. So the near hermetic sealing off of all borders saved millions of lives, stopping the spread of the virus far earlier than in other countries and enabling a swifter post-pandemic recovery. China's government was not the only one that took extreme measures to protect its citizens from risk and exposure. During the pandemic, national leaders around the world flexed their authority and imposed airtight rules and restrictions, from the mandatory wearing of face masks to body temperature checks at the entries to communal spaces like train stations and supermarkets. Even after the pandemic faded, this more authoritarian control and oversight of citizens and their activities stuck and even intensified. So even though the pandemic went away, the authoritative measures that the government imposed on their people and their citizens stuck and stayed around. And this is exactly what I think is going to happen. Y'all, this keeps just calling it out. It's crazy this was written in 2010 because it is exactly describing what is going on right now. Just with different players. Wild bats instead of wild geese. China instead of Africa instead of China. Guys, this is crazy. So y'all need to go in here and read it. It is... Go look at 2010 Rockefeller Foundation memo scenarios, and it'll pop up. And I'll put it in the links and descriptions down below once I learn how to do that. I'm kind of new at all this. But so if you keep reading it, it just gets crazy. And there's other scenarios that they propose in this manual. But this is crazy. We all know anything coming from the Rockefeller Institute is evil. These people are corrupt to the core. We should never trust them. They never have our best interests in mind. So let me see here. The Diamond Princess, the cruise ship where they had to quarantine. There's something special about this cruise ship, y'all. Did y'all know in 2016, the same outbreak of a norovirus, do y'all remember that stomach issue? It happened on this ship as well. But also, this ship has a technology and a satellite system on top of it that was created by a company called SES. And they basically, what do they say about themselves? They say, let's see here. They basically are a technology company that sends TV stations to all different corners of the globe so people can pick it up all around the world using their satellites. And they're also working with, it sounds like the internet, with the Diamond Princess, because the Diamond Princess basically is a rolling out ship with 5G on it. And it's operated by some of the equipment and maybe entirely by this company called SES. I'm going to find out more about them later, but it's kind of interesting that, y'all, I mean, this ship has 5G. All the places where the coronavirus is breaking out has 5G. The coronavirus and the 5G happens to mimic one another, is what they're saying. So when people have issues with 5G, it looks like you're having a coronavirus outbreak. Who knows if like 80% of all people every year probably have the coronavirus antibodies, because when they test people, they don't test you for the coronavirus or HIV or AIDS. They test you for your antibodies, like your T cell counts, if they're skyrocketed or other things like that. And that's what they test for, is these antibodies. Now, why would some small nursing home 40 minutes outside of Seattle, when an elderly man had a cough and a fever, and why would they send it off immediately to the CDC for testing for coronavirus, then calling the Washington Post? I mean, that just seems suspect. Sorry. I'm not buying that. Why not just check it for the regular flu? I'm like, oh, he's just got something, and never test for the coronavirus. But this is all happening for a reason. And the reason is, I think, is that through these measures, they are going to slowly, incrementally take your rights away. Like they've been doing for decades now. I mean, the Fourth Amendment doesn't even exist anymore. But a lot of these rights are going to be taken away, and we're going to have to put in these security measures. And y'all know, as soon as you give up your liberty for your security, you've lost. Our great-great-grandfathers and grandmothers would never have put up with something like this. We would have band together, went out in the streets, and like, yo, you can't tell us what to do. We are free people. Thomas Jefferson would never let this fly. I don't know how many people are going to get sick. To me, it seems like they're rolling out this 5G. There's a lot of people who are going to die. A lot of people who are going to get sick, or they're going to have health problems, maybe not die, but they're going to have some issues. And it's all going to be blamed on the coronavirus. They want you to think that this virus is causing all of these issues that could be caused by the 5G interaction and them turning on all these towers. There's a tower right near my house. I'll do a little video later in the week that it's just all the trees are dead. And you see this one green lush tree, and it's a fake tree, just a big tree, fake tree, and out in the middle of nowhere by itself. And this is probably a 5G tower. That's probably exactly what it is. So y'all, I'm going to do my next episode is going to talk about, I'm going to do a little bit of history of the Medical Association and the medical history of the United States. It's going to be really, really interesting. Y'all, stay safe. Send videos in if you see any military presence in downtown cities, like they're going to get ready to shut everything down and start arrest. The thing is, how can they arrest people when they're letting people out of prison already? So what, are they just going to write you a ticket, or they're going to build some instant prisons like the Chinese did? They're instant hospitals. I mean, that's all a load of shit. All of this has been planned, y'all. Do not believe what they are telling you. They lie to us all the time. Y'all know this. Stay safe.